Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Devil Source Postgame Show. I'm Blake Neiman here with Chris Cartman, following Arizona State's 93-89 win over Cal Poly, improving to 5-1 on the young 2024-25 season. And Chris, ASU was shooting pretty well in the first half, but still with only a 7-man rotation tonight. It was Sparky's birthday, gave him a little bit of a scare, down some bodies tonight, ended up pulling it out in the end with some late free throw shooting.
Cal Poly, one of the 2 or 3 worst teams that ASU will play this season. Giving up 89 points at home is a bad performance defensively. They only had a 7-man rotation, as you said. Sean Phillips didn't play. He's got a calf strain day-to-day. They wanted to give him some time off against a team that's not that big. Then Austin Nunez, he's out with Achilles tendonitis. So that we'll see what happens with that when they have a little bit of a week off here. And then Brandon Gardner is not played due to a coach's decision. When you're only down to 7 players and you're not getting into the rotation, that's not a great sign for Gardner and his status. They seemed a little bit sluggish. They've played a lot recently, and Hurley said that maybe that had some cumulative effect on them. Bottom line, though, is that Cal Poly should not be able to space out ASU and drive into the basket and get nearly as many paint points as it did in this game. It was like 36 or 38 paint points, outscoring ASU in the key in their building. That's not good.
Yeah, and ASU also surrendering 50% from the field from Cal Poly. What did you just see from the Mustangs offensively that allowed them to kind of crack through ASU's defense?
Yeah, like I said, they had one really good shooter, Hyder. I think he hit 7 threes in the game, 27 points, game high. So you got to account for that. But then they were using these ghost screens where like show a screen but not. And then ASU was getting stuck with 2 players out of position, drop down the ball into the paint, and then the rotations weren't there, or they were just sort of dribble driving. ASU's guards have to be able to do a better job on the ball, and there needs to be better overall intensity and communication on that side of the floor, plus help side defense, because that is one of the less athletic teams that ASU is going to go up against at the guard positions, and that's why that's a little bit alarming. Also, ASU's tended to play to its competition. We've talked about that as a theme of this team a lot, from Idaho State, then Gonzaga, Santa Clara playing much better, and then GCU. They played well for the most part in that game, but now a couple of performances that weren't up to snuff, I would say, particularly on the defensive end.
Justin Sandin continues to impress with his jump shot, his second 20-point game in the last 3 games that he has played. And ASU overall offensively had tended to trend more with kind of how Sandin's night went, more in the first half production-wise. Sandin having 15 of his 20 points tonight in the first half. Kind of got a sluggish start for ASU offensively in the second half, came through with some late free throw shooting to pull it away.
This ASU team is a much better shooting team than Hurley's had most years, if not all years. Got to go back to probably that first Guard U year. They hit 4 threes in a row to start the game. 3 were from the corner. That was before Sandin even checked into the game, and he's their best shooter. And then he ended up with 15 points off in the first half alone, 10 in the first 10 minutes of the game. The guy is a really impressive shooter. Like, he off the bounce, pull up game, fade away in the corner 3. We have not seen that at ASU. It is a special thing. Now, Cal Poly made some pretty good adjustments in the second half to kind of overplay. He didn't get as many shots. I felt like I disagree a little bit with Bobby Hurley. He took issue with a question in the post game about whether or not they were making enough of a concerted effort to get Sandin the ball in the second half. He only had 2 shots in the first maybe 14, 15 minutes of that half. And I'm not sure that they ran enough actions where he could either slip if they played over it or be able to still continue to make shots. That's, to me, it's going to be a huge emphasis for somebody who's that good of a shooter. But he did score off the bounce and get to the free throw line several times with the adjustment that the Mustangs made to try to defend him. Adam Miller made 4 or 5 threes in this game. They're easier shots for him because now they're catch and shoot varieties versus having to do a lot off of the bounce.
And a couple late in the game, too.
When it really mattered, he hit 2 in a row. You're right. And so, again, this is a much better shooting team because it has a variety of players who can make shots. Alston Mason can make shots. BJ Freeman has the ability to make shots. And others, right? And that's part of the reason why ASU has to pick up its intensity and focus on the other end of the floor, because an opponent like this should get the doors blown off of it and crawl back home with its Mustang tail between its legs, you know?
There you go. That's one way to put it. And Jaden Quaintance continues to find comfortability on the floor, find his way in the collegiate game. His second straight double-double with 12 rebounds and 11 points for him. He's starting to get a grasp for the game, Chris.
Yeah, he was a candidate for newcomer of the week in the Big 12 last week. He's 7'4" wingspan, and he's a good athlete, and he's nimble, and he has a feel for the ball coming off the rim. He should have a lot of double-doubles, and he should probably have an even greater intensity from the outset of the game, because in the first time he got the ball, he had 2 shots blocked tonight, and Cal Poly has nobody taller than 6'9" and not that athletic. So, have more of a sense of purpose and intensity to try to dunk the ball early on in the game, set a tone, own the paint at both ends. That's going to come. He's 17 years old, the youngest player in college basketball. Maybe I'm setting expectations that are kind of high, because he was, after all, a 5-star guy who aspires to be a first-round NBA draft pick in 2 years, right? But the talent is obvious. There's things every single game. He had the sequence where he had 2 dunks in pretty quick succession. In this game, one of them was a drive from the elbow. That was a pretty impressive play. Then he got fed a nice ball inside and had a dunk. Okay, that's there. He's had at footprint center, he had the steal, and then the nice little nimble dribble, and then the pass. So these things are going to start to show up more and more, I think, as he gets more comfortable and a better sense of how he fits in. Hurley said tonight that he was a little bit rushed on some of his free throws, and you see that he gets sped up sometimes a little bit too much. But between Quaintance, Sanin, even Amir Ali, who is a good three-point shooter for a big, it's a very talented class. It makes sense why they were so highly regarded.
Bobby Hurley has emphasized and continued to reiterate that he feels that ASU has played one of the hardest schedules in college basketball to begin this season. Now get an 8-day break before their next game in Palm Springs, California against New Mexico. Where are they at right now, and where are they headed?
You better play a tough schedule in the non-conference to get you ready for this monumentally difficult Big 12 schedule. I looked at it. They're going to play 20 straight games in a row against top 100 Ken Palm teams beginning in the last few days of December, all the way through the conclusion of their regular season. And just to put a finer point on this, Ken Palm ranked Cal Poly as the number 288 team in the country. They're going to play 20 in a row top 100s. And New Mexico is a top 75, and Florida is a top 75, and that's still to come in the non-conference. So yeah, they're 5-1, and people are feeling excited. And this team has more talent than most Hurley teams, particularly on the offensive skill side. But they're going to have to play with this sort of intensity from tip to final whistle better than they have, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, if they want to accomplish their goals, which is, of course, to play in the NCAA tournament.
Sun Devils will try and continue to get this young group together and play that full 40 minutes that they're after, get a long break until their Thanksgiving holiday tournament in Palm Springs. For Chris Cartman, I'm Blake Neiman signing off from Desert Financial Arena. Sun Devils get the win on Sparky's birthday.